Thank you for your interest in participating in a CAP virtual inspection. This webinar, entitled Navigating Your Virtual Inspection, will help you get started demonstrating your accreditation compliance in an electronic world. At the end of this webinar, you'll be able to describe the rationale and eligibility requirements for virtual inspection, list pre-inspection steps, identify applications to facilitate document review, list expectations of camera operators, comply with patient privacy restrictions unique to an unsecured live feed, and describe the post-inspection process. First, some background and some updates. The CAP's laboratory accreditation program inspections were halted in March 2020 due to the COVID pandemic. Inspections began to ramp up again in June of 2020. At the same time, members and staff began development of advanced document review and a virtual inspection model to increase the volume of inspections that could be completed. Both processes were successfully implemented in 2020 and are approved by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, CMS, and the DoD. Members and staff also took numerous actions to assist laboratories during this time and provide additional education on the hybrid and virtual models. This included multiple webinars for both domestic and international customers, updates to the organization profile site to enable uploading of documents for advanced document review, and customer communications to provide updates and the latest information available. The CAP also developed extensive materials and tools which are available online to help orchestrate the new inspection processes and answer related questions. This work continues, and we are making progress completing inspections and utilizing both the hybrid and virtual inspection models. We have seen an increase in the number of inspections we're able to complete. There has been a lot of great work. That said, we still face major challenges. We are seeing an increased volume of completed inspections and will continue to work toward reducing the backlog. This has been a challenging time for all, and we sincerely appreciate your support. The CAP offers in-person with advanced document review, and 100% virtual inspection options. Innovative options allow both laboratories and inspectors to optimally complete the inspection process in the current climate. There are advantages and disadvantages to each option. A virtual inspection may not tie up multiple laboratory staff members at one time, but preparing for a virtual inspection takes more effort than traditional inspection preparation. This webinar will primarily address virtual inspection models. Advanced document review is an option for both virtual and in-person, and we'll discuss that later in the presentation. What laboratories qualify for a virtual inspection? To be eligible for a virtual inspection, the laboratory must have the required technology, which will be discussed on the next slide. Also, the laboratory must be in good standing with no probation, allegations of noncompliance, or immediate jeopardy. For laboratories undergoing initial inspection for CAP accreditation, per the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, laboratories subject to the Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments, CLIA, using a virtual inspection will require a focused in-person visit when restrictions allow. Non-CLIA laboratories may require a focused in-person visit if deemed necessary by the CAP. Also, the CAP reserves the right to require an in-person inspection for any laboratory where it is deemed necessary to determine compliance. To be successful, the laboratory needs to be able to display evidence of compliance electronically for the inspection team. The laboratory will need computers with cameras to interact with the inspection team and exchange information, similar to what happens in traditional inspections. One or more mobile devices, such as laptops, tablets, or smartphones, with a camera, microphone, and speakers, are needed to allow inspectors to observe testing and the environment. You will need to have a secure audiovisual application, a webcam, and scan and screen share capabilities. Laboratories will also need virtual meeting software. Lab managers are familiar with this by now, but lead technologists are less familiar. Laboratories can reach out to their IT department to determine which platform will work best with their institution's firewalls, and for assistance with boosting the Wi-Fi access if there are dead zones in the laboratory. Note, it is nearly impossible to do a virtual inspection if most documentation in your laboratory is only on paper. There are two terms used throughout this presentation that I want to call out and differentiate. The first is live streaming. This is defined as a type of streaming in which audio or video is broadcast live over the internet in real time. The second is recording. This is defined as the use of desktop capture tools or software to take screenshots and save any part of the live streaming. The CAP does not allow live streaming of patients, and the CAP does not permit recording. Patients are not consented for photography, and there are legal ramifications for having such files. The basic anatomy of a virtual inspection consists of a document review and a live stream component. Laboratories subject to CLIA are no longer required by CMS to also undergo an in-person focused inspection. However, the CAP reserves the right to require one if needed. The CAP will schedule the on-site focused inspection within 6 months. International laboratories may also be subject to an in-person component if deemed necessary by the CAP. We will cover the pre-planning steps in the next section. We can't stress enough the importance of properly preparing yourself and your staff for a successful virtual inspection. Everyone needs to be on the same page with expectations. There will be some limitations that you wouldn't normally experience or would experience to a lesser degree in a traditional inspection process. Preparation is vital for a successful and well-received virtual inspection. We'll go over these critical pre-inspection steps in the next slides. There are some simple steps your lab can take to facilitate your virtual inspection. First, set up a readiness call. A call will be scheduled between the inspection team leader and the laboratory medical director approximately 3 to 4 months prior to the laboratory's anniversary date or inspection due date if different from the anniversary date. Next, work with your inspection team to coordinate an inspection schedule and submit your documents for pre-inspection document review. Finally, test your technology with a dry run. Each of these steps is described in detail on the following slides. The readiness call is absolutely necessary to determine that the laboratory can and will be able to demonstrate their compliance using electronic video platforms. The medical laboratory director will need to help decide which platform will be best for the video conference calls and work out the tentative schedule for the virtual inspection, such as how many days will the inspection run and for how long each day. Are there any special needs for a specific department? For example, if the supervisor for chemistry has a planned vacation day that can't be changed the week of the virtual inspection, you'll need to schedule the chemistry inspection around her availability. Will the documents be reviewed simultaneously with the virtual inspection process, or will they be made available to the team ahead of time? And if so, how? Will they be uploaded through the org profile? Will access be granted to the lab's document management system, etc.? What timing and frequency of touch points between the team and the lab is appropriate so that everyone is on the same page and there are established times to get additional information if needed. This is in addition to the scheduled blocks of time for working with the staff in each individual department. As often, there are documents that other staff, for example, the quality team, lab manager, hospital infection control, will have that departmental staff may not always be aware of. Touchpoints help ensure laboratories are not cited for items that they actually are in compliance with, but that department staff were unaware of or couldn't provide. And finally, who are the key contacts for each inspection area? Inspection schedules should be coordinated and clear between inspection site and inspection team. You should account for any time zone differences. This is especially important for international inspections. We recommend scheduling blocks of time throughout the inspection to provide flexibility for a busy laboratory and to minimize screen time for screen fatigue staff. For international inspections, the inspection time should be limited to 4 hours per day during the operating hours of the international laboratory. An inspection planning tip sheet can be found in eLab's inspection tools. And remember to add time frame for touch points. Here is a typical schedule for a domestic laboratory inspection. Most of the inspection will be completed in one day, and depending on the virtual platform used, each team member can work in their own breakout room or set up their own virtual meeting with the laboratory staff to participate in the inspection of their department. Everyone will reconvene the next morning for a touch point or follow-up on any outstanding issues and complete the inspection and summation conference. In this example, the laboratory being inspected is an international laboratory offering full-service testing. Because of the time difference, the inspectors are working earlier in the day through mid-afternoon, which will be late morning through early evening at the laboratory location. There will also be one interpreter available to assist the inspectors that do not have the foreign language skills needed for this inspection. The laboratory is only able to provide 2 camera operators per day, one on path A and one on path B. Based on the team and laboratory needs, the team leader and director have agreed to conduct this inspection over 4 days following the schedule you see on the screen. Not all inspectors will be inspecting each day. Strategic laboratory scheduling by the laboratory director can mitigate potential staffing shortages. Note, the end of the day has a touchpoint daily wrap-up block which allows time to communicate concerns and issues encountered throughout the day. The CAP continues to innovate the inspection process to meet the needs of both laboratories and inspection teams. Document review is an important inspection task, and laboratories are now able to indicate their preference to share documents with the inspection team, either during or in advance of the inspection. If advanced document review is the preference of your laboratory, the document review will take place within the 2 weeks prior to the in-person or virtual inspection. The laboratory may provide the inspection team access to documents by uploading documents into the laboratory's organization profile, providing a guest login for web-based document laboratory management systems. The laboratory may also choose to share documents by using screen sharing via a video conference call, sending selected documents via email. Documents submitted electronically should be in a read-only format and must not contain any personal health information unless specifically needed to demonstrate compliance with a CAP checklist requirement. Inspection sites, laboratories with firewall or other technology-related issues should consult their institution's IT department. Advanced document review is optional. This is the organization profile page. The arrow is showing where to navigate to document review options. If the laboratory chooses to do advanced document review through their organization profile, a brief questionnaire will populate that asks if the laboratory utilizes IQCPs, implemented any new testing, or has any modified or lab-developed tests. The list of documentation to attach in advance is limited to several categories. They are delegations, QM plan, IQCPs, new test verification validation documentation. Each of these allows for the option to not provide that documentation if electronic copies are not available or if the laboratory feels that there may be too much to try to include. Again, this is optional and allows for some advanced document review to help the inspectors understand your laboratory and not have to review these documents on site unless there are questions. Inspectors encourage the use of annotated checklists, which can help you be ready to show evidence of compliance for any checklist item. Downloading the CAP-provided Excel checklist can facilitate this process. You don't need special software. If your laboratory does not already have an annotated checklist, the next slides will show you how to download the checklist in Excel format and adapt it. To download an Excel version of the custom checklist, log into eLab Solutions Suite, click Accreditation Checklist, select Excel Checklist File Format, and select the long version. After downloading the customized checklist in Excel, you can add columns with information and hyperlinks as a tool to show how your laboratory is compliant with each requirement. Here's an image of your custom checklist in Excel format. The information in black is pre-populated and includes headers for requirement ID, phase, subject header, written requirement, note, and evidence of compliance. The note and evidence of compliance are only filled in if the checklist requirement has these components. The information in red is an example of some headers laboratories can add to help with organization. For example, procedure location or record location. Conducting a dry run call will increase your chances of a successful virtual inspection experience. The purpose of the dry run call is to ensure that all technology pieces are working as they should and that the plan schedule doesn't need any adjusting. It is a time to iron out difficulties and make adjustments as needed before inspection day. We've shown you how to set up and get your virtual inspection started. Now let's get down to being inspected. Camera operators are an integral part to virtual inspections as they are used for the lab tour and to allow inspectors to directly observe the testing in your lab. This slide covers some basic points about the functions and requirements of camera operators. On the actual day of your inspection, a Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or other video collaboration application call is initiated. Inspectors will typically complete the inspection activities in 1 to 1.5 days. Larger institutions or multi-site inspections will require additional time to complete inspection of all laboratories. Multiple team members may conduct concurrent video conference calls with laboratory staff or utilize multiple breakout rooms if the video conference platform has this capability. Inspectors will use a video conferencing tool for certain parts of the read, observe, ask, discovery, road inspection technique, such as observing testing, asking open-ended questions, drilling down, and tracing through a discovery process. So now let's get started with your starring roles in your inspection. The camera is used primarily for the lab walkthrough for assessing the laboratory environment, fire escapes, eye wash locations, etc. A mobile camera can also be used to directly observe the testing processes. The inspector will direct the camera operators to show what they want to see, such as the lab environment, specimen processing, analytic testing processes, testing personnel using their personal protective equipment. Here are some tips from our seasoned inspectors on demonstrating compliance. Use the customized checklist you just built to cross-reference your policies and procedures with the checklist ID number. Use the capabilities of your lab to generate digital images of surgical pathology slides. Virtual inspection involves some compromises. Inspectors will learn either to accept what you provide and may have to tolerate delays while you seek out and try to display other records they request. This slide provides a sampling of reasonable requests you may receive during a virtual inspection. Okay, let's leave the laboratory for a minute and talk about patient areas. We can't emphasize this enough. Patients must never be videoed, and you must also avoid inadvertent streaming of protected health information. What are some ways you can avoid this? By alerting supervisors of non-laboratory areas that the virtual inspection is happening so staff are not surprised by the cameras, or by directing patient care staff away from patient areas for inspectors to interview them. For example, if you need to video interview the nurse who transfuses blood or a respiratory therapist who run blood gases, pull them out of the patient area to interview them. Although not visiting patient care areas, an inspector may wish to interview point-of-care testing personnel, nurses, etc. They may ask questions like, where do you find the policies and procedures? How do you report results? How do you identify patients for transfusion? What would you look for to identify a transfusion reaction? They may ask staff to simulate the experience by using leading statements such as, describe an arterial blood draw step by step. Show me how you would run a sample. Use a control if necessary. You learned how to set up, prepare for, and participate in the inspection virtually. In this section, you'll learn about your role in the post-inspection. A single-site inspection should not require more than a day or two to complete, just like conducting the inspection on site. Larger, highly complex laboratories and large groups of laboratories may take additional time, but should not exceed 1 to 2 weeks to complete the inspection for all sites. The team leader must define the time frame by which the laboratories can provide any documents they would like to have reviewed for possible correction during inspection. For deficiencies you have corrected during inspection, you will need to share the corrective actions with the team for review. This can be done at one of the daily touchpoint meetings or however the team has indicated they'd like to receive this information. If the team has access to your document management system, it may be as easy as sending an email to your inspector to let them know you've uploaded a revised document as corrective action for the deficiency and ask that they log on and review it. With multi-day inspections, the CAP recommends laboratories present their updates, corrections to the inspection team on the morning of the last day of the inspection to be considered as corrected during the inspection. Once the team has completed the inspection and moved into the pre-summation meeting, no further corrections can be made during inspection. Those items will need to be addressed in your response to the CAP. So you made it to the summation conference. Summation conferences are done in the same way as on-site inspections, just using video or a conference call. It's important to note, you do not get additional time for the deficiency response. It's still 30 days and it begins at the end of the summation conference. Completing Part B of the ISR is also like what you're used to. The only exception is that it's done electronically rather than on paper. Your laboratory director will sign the ISR and return the signed page back to the team leader. Once the laboratory has successfully responded to all deficiencies, an accreditation decision will be made. A focused follow-up on-site inspection will occur in laboratories when deemed in need of one. To summarize the key points outlined in this webinar, documentation review may be completed prior to and/or during the virtual inspection. On-site observation requires a live streamed video view. Make a plan for organizing your documents. No personal health information should be uploaded to the document sharing site. Summation is via video conference at the end of the virtual inspection. And paperwork may be electronically completed and submitted. Thank you for joining us today. For any outstanding questions not addressed in this webinar, please contact cred@cap.org. Please enjoy the rest of your day.